The derelict vessel hung against the star field like a frozen shadow, its hull torn open in places where old battle scars had never healed. From a distance it seemed peaceful, a drifting relic of some forgotten conflict, but the pilot approaching it knew better. He had seen too many traps in his life to trust the quiet shapes of ruined ships. The man guiding the small survey craft went by the name Orion, a simple and direct name given to him by his mother long ago, and he preferred it that way. He believed that simple names helped people stay grounded even in the endless night between worlds. Orion eased his craft closer, watching for heat signatures, movement, or any strange anomalies that might suggest danger. The abandoned ship gave none. No lights flickered. No energy readings pulsed. Nothing moved. Only the slow rotation of a massive structure that had once carried hundreds of lives suggested that it still existed at all. Orion linked his suit systems to the survey craft and prepared to board, knowing that wrecks like this sometimes contained valuable components or data that could earn him a good supply of credits. Salvage work was not glamorous, but it kept him alive, and it gave him the satisfaction of solving mysteries scattered across the cosmos. He guided his vessel to a stable docking point and stepped through the adjoining airlock, boots clamping onto the cold metal floor of the silent behemoth. The interior was darker than he expected. His helmet light flicked on and revealed shattered panels, dangling wires, and sections of wall scorched from energy blasts. Yet something about the damage puzzled him. The marks were controlled, almost surgical, as though the attackers had wanted to disable the ship rather than destroy it. As Orion moved deeper, the silence thickened around him. Every step echoed along corridors that had once hummed with crew activity. He reached a junction where the walls bore intricate carvings, symbols of an unknown empire, yet their patterns hinted at artistry and culture rather than pure militarism. Even drifted and broken, the ship's design seemed graceful. He wondered who had built it and what had become of them. His scanner detected a faint energy spike far below in the ship's central deck. Life support was dead, engines were cold, and weapon systems offline, so anything still powered was worth checking. Orion followed the signal. The corridors twisted and merged like the branches of a petrified tree, each turn taking him deeper toward the core. When he reached a sealed door, he found its power still active. That alone was unusual. With practiced skill, he bypassed the lock and stepped inside. The room beyond was large and oval, lined with cracked display screens and half-melted consoles. At the center of the space stood a containment pod powered by a backup generator barely functioning. Inside the pod floated a figure. Orion stepped closer, and his breath caught. The figure was clearly alien, tall and regally built, with luminous markings along her arms and a crown of natural crest ridges around her head. She drifted in suspended animation, armored in what looked like ceremonial plating, unlike anything he had seen. It took him only a moment to realize who she must be. Royal iconography adorned the pod base, its symbols matching the carvings along the ship's halls. Orion whispered to himself that she was no ordinary captive, but likely the queen of her people. The idea that a queen had survived the destruction of her vessel was astonishing, but the fact she was left behind raised more questions. Had her people abandoned her? Had an enemy captured her and fled after losing control? The possibilities unsettled him. Orion studied the pod's display, deciphering patterns in the alien script. He was not fluent, but decades of salvaging had taught him enough to guess meanings. The pod was failing. The Queen's life signs were weakening. If he did nothing, she would perish within hours. He hesitated. Rescuing her could pull him into a conflict between unknown forces. However, he had always believed that humanity's strength came from refusing to ignore those in need. And this belief drove him now. He connected his suit's power cell to the failing generator and worked to stabilize the pod. His hands moved with precision as he rerouted circuits, patched torn cables, and forced life back into the machine. Sparks flew at times, but he persisted until the system steadied. The containment faded, and the Queen slowly lowered to the floor, unconscious but alive. Orion knelt beside her and checked her pulse. It was faint but steady. He knew he had to bring her to his craft, where atmosphere and medical supplies existed. He gathered her carefully, mindful of her weight and armor, and carried her through the dark corridors back to his entry point. She was surprisingly light, possibly due to biological differences or low-density bone structure. When he reached his vessel, he sealed the airlock and activated the pressurization cycle. Inside the small ship, he set her on the medical cot and monitored her vitals. Her breathing deepened. Her eyelids twitched. He prepared a mild stabilizer injection safe for most oxygen-breathing species and administered it. The Queen stirred and finally opened her eyes, revealing irises that glowed like molten gold. She looked around, confused but alert. Her voice was soft yet firm as she asked where she was. Orion explained that he had found her on a derelict vessel drifting without power. She listened with a steady gaze, taking in every word. When he finished, she sat up, graceful despite exhaustion, and thanked him. She introduced herself with a melodic name that Orion had difficulty repeating, but she assured him he could address her as Lyra. A simpler version suited for his speech. Lyra asked how long she had been unconscious. Orion gave his best estimate based on pod readings. She nodded grimly and explained that her ship had been ambushed by a rival faction who sought to claim her empire's leadership. They had boarded, sabotaged systems, and attempted to capture her, but loyal guardians had hidden her in the containment pod to save her. In the chaos, she had lost consciousness, and the attackers must have believed her dead or unreachable. With this revelation, Orion realized he had rescued not just an individual, but a sovereign, whose disappearance could ignite a war. He asked what she intended to do now. Lyra replied that she needed to return to her people, not only to reclaim her position, but to prevent false rumors from fracturing her empire. However, her pursuers would not give up easily. They might still hunt her. Orion considered this, and decided he would help her reach a safe star system. He knew the risks, but also understood that leaving her alone would expose her to further danger. Lyra accepted his offer with gratitude and respect. She assured him her people honored those who acted with courage. As Orion guided his ship away from the derelict vessel, he charted a course toward a neutral zone known for diplomatic activity. He hoped they could find allies there. Lyra sat near the cockpit, observing his controls and asking questions about human technology. She was intrigued by the simplicity and efficiency of his craft. Orion, in return, asked about her culture. She explained that her people valued harmony between strength and wisdom, believing rulers must defend as well as guide. Their conversation continued as stars drifted past the viewing window. Lyra recounted her empire's long history, its alliances, its struggles, and its triumphs. Orion shared tales of humanity's early ventures into space and how humans survived through adaptability and perseverance. He avoided any sensitive subjects and kept the dialogue focused on exploration and discovery. After several hours, the sensors detected a large ship approaching rapidly. Its energy profile matched aggressor vessels known to target monarchic factions. Lyra recognized it immediately. She said the attackers had found them. Orion accelerated and performed evasive maneuvers, weaving between asteroid clusters to break the enemy's lock. The small craft shuddered from near misses as beams sliced past. Orion worked with sharp focus, controlling the ship with steady hands. Lyra stood at a support rail, analyzing enemy movements and guiding him through safe paths only someone familiar with their tactics would know. Together they formed a swift and decisive team. The chase lasted longer than Orion liked, but eventually he used the asteroid field to mask their escape. When the enemy ship lost contact, he pushed his engines to full speed toward their destination. When the danger passed, Lyra expressed admiration for his skill. Orion responded modestly, saying humans often excelled when situations seemed hopeless. She replied that such resilience was rare and valuable. They reached the neutral zone some time later. A station floated in the distance, its structure shaped like interlocking rings. Orion contacted the authorities and explained that he was escorting a diplomatic passenger in need of sanctuary. The station granted permission to dock. Once aboard, they were greeted by officials who recognized Lyra's royal insignia and immediately offered protection. While arrangements were made to contact her people, Lyra remained beside Orion. She said she owed her life to him and would honor that debt. Orion insisted he had only done what any decent traveler should do. Lyra disagreed, saying many would have taken advantage of her weakness or abandoned her. She insisted on granting him a reward. Orion declined monetary gifts, saying he valued integrity more than payment. Lyra appreciated his humility. She asked instead if she could record a formal statement acknowledging that a human had saved her life, hoping it would strengthen ties between their species. Orion agreed. As the recorders captured her words, she spoke with clear strength, Declare.